Hello and welcome to all our crochet friends, to those that are just stopping by and to all of those that come back and spend some time with me. I really appreciate you stopping by and sharing in my love of crochet. I'm G and this is G Crochet Off the Hook, sharing my love of crochet. I do want to confess though that I feel like I have been rather shite about trying to keep everybody up to date with what my projects are. So I'm going to try not to waffle really. I'm just going to say, come along with me and let's get squared up, because there are a few squares that I'd like to share with you all. Now, the first lot of squares that I'd like to share have come with me already since February. In February, we went away for a long weekend, which was really awesome. I packed my wonderful, very handy travel crochet bag, project bag, and it was filled with good intentions. They're a little bit smaller now, but they are large skeins of yarn balls in here. I also took along, so organized with such great intentions, one of my plastic sleeves where I have printed out and added the patterns for what I was going to crochet for that long weekend. Truth be told, I only got about 2 squares done that particular weekend, as there were a lot of other activities that we took part in, and for the most part the whole point of the long weekend was just to relax and unwind. So what was the project that I have taken with me and I need to put some time and energy into when I get a chance? Well, it's called the Sweet Dreams Baby Blanket by M&M Crochet Designs. It is a paid for pattern. I have completed this one before. If you've been with me for a while, you would have seen when I started out last year in my lounge. It is my little comfort blanket that is perfect for when it starts getting chilly in the lounge. And I have been wanting to make that blanket again. The intention was to make a double-sized one, so I would double all the squares. That's not going to happen, spoiler alert, but I am going to complete this blanket as a baby-sized blanket again. So what am I using? I am using a 4.5 millimeter crochet hook, and the yarn that I'm using is Saprotex Al yarn, and I have only 2 colors with me at the moment, but the squares will eventually have a third color. The color I'm using is called Tawny, and the other one is called Thistle. It doesn't make too much of a noise. So Thistle and Tawny. This blanket consists of 9 squares. Now this is what happened, was the 2 squares that I did complete while we were away, I think I was just in a very relaxed mood, and this is one of the squares, and I have labeled them for me. This square was square number 6, and it is called Berry Jellies. It's a lovely textured, all the squares are lovely and textured. Now, when I actually sat down to complete the other 7 squares, and I'll show you them quickly as we go along. This was square number 4, called Speckled Eggs. And I hold it up against one that I did while we were away. You will see the one at the back here is, well, I must have just been in a very relaxed mood because the tension is completely off. When I noted that, I corrected the second square that I had done to see, is it just me or am I doing something different? I also thought, am I using the wrong hook size? But it wasn't. I think I was just very relaxed when I was doing those initial 2 squares away. So in the meantime, I fixed one of the other squares that I had done while we were away. Can't remember which one it is. And I continued making all the other squares. So here is square number 3. This is called wine gums. This is square number 5, and it's called jelly babies. Then we have square number 8 called jelly teddies. Just a reminder, the name of the baby blanket is Sweet Dreams, hence the names of the squares as well. This was square 2, jelly beans. And then we had square 7, lemon jellies. We also have square 1, which was called strawberry fizz. I remember the first time I made this blanket for myself, my husband loved all the different sort of like little 3D effects that you got in the middle of the circles. And he actually said it reminded him of like Aztec signs. And when you see it all together, you can pick up on that vibe. And then this was square number 9 called fruit pasties. So there we go. I do have 8 of the squares. Sorry, 8 of them are complete, and this one I need to do over again so that I can get this one to fit with all of these. So that is a project that will be ongoing. It hasn't been touched since I think the first few weeks in March. The next part of this pattern is to put a border on each of the squares. Each of the squares get a border. Just grab one square. Each of the squares will get a border. I'm still trying to decide if I want to make that border the same color as the square is, or mix it up and put the second color, like alternate the colors for that. And then you join all the squares together, and then there's another beautiful border that you put onto the whole blanket, and that is where the third color will be coming in. So we are squared away with some very old squares. The next project that I want to update on is my Formula 1 project. And well, Formula 1 is very strange this year. Not only have events been cancelled, also everybody seems to be struggling with their cars at the moment. Nevertheless, it's a yarn ends project that I get to sit down and tackle during the practice races that are on the telly, as well as then on a Sunday after we've usually had, these last few that we've had have been really early in the morning. Usually towards later on in the year, we've normally had afternoon lunch on a Sunday, and then I settle down to watching some good sports on the TV with a yarn ends project. And this year, it was to take all the yarn ends, and as you can see, this tub is looking rather empty. So I've made very good progress with this. For this whole project, I'm using my yarn ends. Most of them have come from beanies that I've done, little bits that have been left over, as well as that blanket that I completed, the houses blanket, last year. So there were quite a lot of yarn ends left over. Usually I would make a corner-to-corner blanket. I have done various projects, but usually my go-to is a corner-to-corner yarn ends blanket. I just literally put my hand in, take what's coming out, and add it to the blanket. This particular one was also completed last year, and I have showed it previously. This was my rectangle granny square blanket. I had chosen to do some squares initially, and the squares that I was going to do is by Play Hooky With Me, and it is the waffle stitch, or the waffle, just the waffle squares. So what I did was, yes, I actually have one blanket complete already. I told you, I really needed to square up with everybody because I have been crocheting a lot as I've had time in the evenings, and many of these projects have actually worked up very quickly. So I had chosen to do the Play Hooky with Me square waffle to infinity. And what I did was I initially chose, seriously, I know even my husband says, wow, some of those really came out great. And I said, well, I'm glad you think so, because this whole tub was full. And what I would do is take out the bits and bobs that were about this big and this big and this big. And I would literally just start the square. And I did try in the beginning, my only sort of little note that I gave myself was, because it was the first time I was doing these particular squares, was to try and at least make a completed round with a particular color. So as I say, I would grab whatever was the smallest and I would start off and see how far it got me. Then I'd take the next lot, and there were some of the yarn ends that were a bit bigger. I don't have any to show you now. And then I would just, you know, add them in and go around and around with them. So I did 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 12, which is basically the bottom. I think it's 13. But so 12 of these little sections around. So just very quickly, for the first blanket that I put together, I've done 3 squares by 3 squares. So there we go. There we go. And then we have that one, that one. And this was a mix of variegated with solid colors. I think there is a square here, this particular one. There were really little bits of pieces coming out of the yarn ends basket. So yeah, I really did just added them on with the magic knot and just went for it to make up the square. And so this one is complete. It's a lovely baby size blanket with 3 by 3. And what I did to join them, I don't know why this has stuck with me for a few projects. I know I used it last year as well. All I did was join them together. I'm not sure if we could get a, that's about as good as it's going to get there, but I've just joined them together, 3 this way and then 3 that way, with a chain 1 to attach it, and then I did the back loop to me and the front, well, also the back loop from the other square. So we have that little ridge there again. I'm not sure if it's coming up. And I did the slip stitch, chain 1, slip stitch, chain 1 all the way along, just to keep that texture going. A little bit of a ridge that you get all the way along there. And then for the border, I've done a border that I've done many times before for baby blankets that have texture, and you sort of want to keep that texture going. And that is adding sort of like a ribbed border. And all I did there was I started in the corner of one of the squares, and I know I've done up to 11 before, but all I did was, first of all, I put in a base double crochet all the way around, and in the corners I did a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, and then the very next round in the middle I started with putting in 1, 2, 3, 4. For this one I just did 5 stitches in the corner, and when you join and attach for the second, third, and you can carry on with your rounds that way, it's a front post, back post, front post, back post. We all know those, especially if you do beanies and you do ribbing. And that is what I did. So to me, it just kept that textured look for the whole blanket. So yes, I think this was, I did do about 6 of these squares for the first race weekend. I can't remember now. And I would just keep doing squares, and then over the last, I think I finished this up last weekend. Was it Easter? Yeah, this last Easter weekend. They join up really quickly, and there we have this blanket. I'm very chuffed with that. Of course, those weren't the only squares that I've made. I've made more squares than that with the rest of the races that we did have. And I'm going to start putting these together, and this is 3 squares by 4 squares. So very quickly, you can just see how some of these squares started working up with all the yarn ends and that last row. And I have just started putting the first lot together. So hopefully soon I will be able to show you another yarn ends blanket complete. And that means we've squared up on 2 of our projects. Then some of you may know that I am crocheting some baby beanies. That project is ongoing. I do need to do a tally really soon because we have had a call from a local charity who is collecting to give out at the maternity ward at our local provincial hospital. And they were also asking if anybody was able to do some baby blankets. So I did complete 2 little baby blankets as well. I was trying to make some space slowly but surely with some of my yarn stash. And some of you may recognize this yarn. Sorry for the, I did make quite a few beanies last year. It's going to make too much of a noise. Anyway, you can see it over there. It's that. They did make some lovely beanies. So I thought, even though it's a little bit bold, I'm going to make 2 baby blankets from this yarn as well. So the first just tutorial that came up was one from the Crochet Crowd, and it is called the Periwinkle Baby Blanket. So I used a 4.5mm hook for this specific blanket, and I used 3 100-gram skeins. Each skein had 260 meters. Now somebody on Instagram did mention that when she saw the blanket, it reminded her of some of the blankets that Fiber Spider does. And I didn't click until she mentioned that, because Fiber Spider does have quite a few of these sorts of patterns with filet crochet. And there was one that I have done before, the Every Which Way filet. And I think there's a Rick Rack. I remember writing them down on, you know, I have mentioned to you before, I normally take these off projects and then I just keep them handy in a box, and if I need to, I don't always look at it, but if I did, I'm sure I would find a wealth of treasured information on some of the projects that I have done in the past. So needless to say, I had 3 skeins, I had 6, so I used 3 for 2 different baby blankets. And this is the first one. As I say, this one is called the Periwinkle Baby Blanket by the Crochet Crowd. And this is how it started up. And right up to here is how the pattern works. Now, of course, I do sometimes go off script. So what I did at some stage, which was somewhere around here that I reveal to you now, I did actually turn the whole blanket around and still continue with the pattern. So instead of all of these perhaps still going up this way, they started going up this way. And then somewhere along the line I got bored of that, turned the blanket around again, and you can see it just starts going this way again. But anyway, I had 3 balls to use. I think they've come out really pretty, and somebody's going to love this as a baby blanket. So that was the first one. Of course, the second one may not come as a surprise because I was doing the Waffle to Infinity squares, and Play Hooky with Me has the same, on the same video, she does show you how to do it as a rectangle. So I thought I would take the next 3 skeins that I had of the same yarn, but for this one, I did go up to a 6mm crochet hook. And this is more of a swaddle blanket. And this is what we turned into with those other 3 skeins. So 2 different sized baby blankets, obviously your double crochets like this. Excuse me. Does take up more yarn, and then I just put a simple little border on there where I did some back loop. I think it's double crochets all the way around. So there we go, 2 lovely little baby blankets that I'd be able to send in once I get those beanies sorted out as well, and some yarn skeins that I've had for quite a while are now being put to good use. Now with those, I did add a little cuddle toy for the little ones to have with their blankets, and that is these 2 little elephants. I used to make so many of these years and years ago. This one I have sewed together. This one I did crochet together, added in a little tail. I've embellished their ears again with that slip stitch chain 1, just to give it a nice little bit of a ruffle. And that will make a nice little addition or something a little bit special to go with those baby blankets. Now, with regards to these little elephants, they actually used to be a craze quite a few years ago. I remember almost every single baby shower gift that was crocheted, somebody wanted either an applique elephant on their blankets, even on beanies. And then, of course, I can remember doing some of these much larger and putting a little bit of a rattle in it. And so I am thinking, I'm pretty sure there must be a number of tutorials for different elephant appliques. This is the little one that I had come up with. It's I can't remember now, I think it's a 20 row back and forth little pattern. There's your little elephant, and you have 4 rounds for the ears. Or on the ears, as I say, you can do that slip stitch chain 1 just to give it that nice little ruffle over there. And these do make lovely little appliques that you can sew on to projects, or you can, not these because I've made these specifically as appliques, but you just put them together, either whip stitch them, put a little bit of stuffing into them. I do hope I still have a water bottle tutorial that I want to do, but I do plan on hopefully getting just a little tutorial out for these elephant appliques. And that is I squared up 3 times, and that is where I'm going to say goodbye for now. I do have a few more projects to share with you, but I'm going to put that into another video so that they can get the spotlight on them, and that is a handful of amigurumis that I've been able to make, and I'll give you an update on why some of the amigurumi that I'm usually doing has slowed down a bit. But until I see you again, I hope that you're all keeping well. I know that April is going to feel like it's swinging past just as fast as the other months have. I am hoping, though, that we all get to take time to just breathe, have that cup of tea. As autumn starts rolling in, I'm sure I'm going to have a sherry somewhere along the line. Until I see you all again, take care, guys. Keep well.